What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com, and I am back to look forward to the next month in the world of mixed martial arts, and I'm giving you my top 5 fights that I'm looking forward to personally in the next month. And do you know what? What I usually do is, right, I open up all the events in the next month and I look through the fights that I'm most looking forward to, and I kind of pick out my few first, and I usually get it down to maybe 7 or 8, and then sometimes I was like, I'll just go with the 7 or 8, and then most of the time I go with my 5. But this time I think the 5 kind of stuck out to me a lot on this, and I've really this time gone for fights that I like, and I try to do that every month, but more so this month. These are the 5 fights that I absolutely love, that I think are going to be really, really good this month in the world of mixed martial arts. We have 3 fights from the UFC. We have 1 from one, and we have 1 from the PFL as well. And I feel like a lot of the chat recently, on this podcast has been about a lot of the good stuff that happens outside of the UFC. With obviously I covered all the 1 cards, I covered all the PFL cards, a lot of the Cage Warrior stuff as well. And there's a lot to be seen outside of the UFC, and I always like to bring a bit of that to this, but also obviously to all my other podcasts as well. And let's start that way, because the first fight that I'm going to talk about, and also just before I get into that, apologies, I'm a little bit under the weather, so if the voice is breaking anywhere here or anything, you've probably already noticed, but my apologies for that. But we shall go on. It's Ireland here in July, so obviously it's cold and rainy and people are picking up the flu, so these things happen in MMA. Anyway, the first fight that I have picked out, a fight that has almost happened a few times before, but it's finally happening at One Championship on the 4th of August at 1 on Prime 13. Oh, it's a big one. It is Buchecha, Marcus Almeida against Oumar Kane Rug in the heavyweight division. It's going down at the Lumpini Boxing Stadium over in Thailand. As I said, the 13th One Championship card, with another great MMA fight on that as well, John Linder against Jae-Woon Kim. I was thinking about putting that in, but this is the one for me, honestly, because I love in MMA, right? One of the big parts of my joy that I gather from MMA, obviously I do a lot of the Irish MMA as well, and look at the up and comers there, and the amateurs or the debuting pros, as well as all the Irish people in Cage Warriors and in Bellator and in the UFC now, ranked in the UFC, like Ian Garry, as well as the Joneses, the Nuneses, the everyone else's, right? So I love seeing guys and ladies coming up from amateurs to debuting pros to the very, very top, and to see that build, I think it's really great. And if people aren't maybe involved in that, or haven't done that, or kind of just you tune into the UFC or whatever, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I was like that for many years, but I definitely encourage you to to do that, right? Whether it's let's say you live in San Diego, and you look it up on Sherdog here, one of the local San Diego gyms, pick out a few of their up and coming fighters, have a look at them and follow along their journey, right? And where am I going with this? I feel like Buchecha and Rug are 2 of those people that I think lots of people have kind of followed their journey from early in their careers, with obviously Buchecha coming from the jiu-jitsu world and being really successful over there. He had that name before, but I think with Rug, the way he came through and he fought over Aries, my guy Alan Murphy here, was obviously helping out with Aries with the PR side of it, and he did a great job of explaining who Rug was and where he was from, coming from that mad kind of Senegalese beach wrestling insanity that is like half fighting, half wrestling. And I think whenever you see a story like that, it's and this guy's an absolute beast. You want to tune in and you want to see guys like that fighting. And there's you see him starting MMA in, and he made his debut against Sofian Bakaju, who, if you look at his record, he's fought a lot of good guys, and he's 30-40 fights, I'd say, and he was able to beat him fairly quickly. Now, look, Rug has shown issues throughout his career, make no mistake about that. He even lost 1 fight. It was kind of a weird one at the end of round 2, but he's bounced back from that again and won his last couple. One of them beating a European wrestling champion in his second to last fight at 1-1-6-1. So he's, as well as being a really exciting kind of cool stories, if he keeps going, he could be a really good fighter. And I know he's training out in the Middle East. He's training with one of the Irish fighters here, John Mitchell, who's a very good fighter. He debuted in PFL there last month. And, I think Munir Lazez and others are out there as well training. But so he's getting in some good training there, and he's some good training partners, some good coaches. And he can only improve and improve and improve. He's still only 31 for a heavyweight. That's absolutely massive. And you look at Buchecha on the other side of it, also only 33 years of age, as I said, for a heavyweight, very young. Training, obviously, as a lot of the One Championship up-and-comers do in Evolve, but with American Top Team as well. And now 4-0 as a pro, was able to get 2 fights in 2021, 2 fights in 2022. We're 7 months into 2023 now, and this is his first fight this year, so I'm sure he'll be looking to kind of get going here again, get a win, and go, go to that next level where he wants to go in his MMA journey. But someone's MMA journey is going to be halted here, and briefly anyway. I'm not retiring the loser of this fight or anything, but it's just mad. Who's going to win this? You have the unbelievable jiu-jitsu guy against the unbelievable wrestler. How would you even submit Rug? He's such a gargantuan human being. It almost defies belief to think that could happen. But it almost defies belief to think someone with only 6 fights could go in there against Buchecha and not get submitted. And that, to me, is the key to this. That is, you're looking at the immovable force versus the immovable object, or what it is, the irresistible force against the immovable object, and that's why I want to watch. And let's be honest, it's 2 big lads in the heavyweight division going in there throwing everything at each other. It could be one of those as well, where both of them go in there and they try to throw a few hands first of all and say, well, this guy's a grappler, my hands have been improving, let's test out these hands. And both of them could say exactly that. So what's going to happen then? Someone could be getting knocked out. Now Rug, I think he was way more patient in his last couple of fights, looked really, really good at times. Now I'm not he's not Cyril Gagne or anything like that yet, but he did look good at times, whereas I think Buchecha didn't have as much. A lot of his fights ended within none of them have gone over 3 minutes, so we haven't had that much to see. But he beat Kirill Grashenko last time out, who's a very high level fighter as well, but we haven't seen, I suppose, a few rounds or a few minutes of him and his jab working and him putting together shots. Most of it has been a bit of that, and then a takedown, and in good ground and pound, his ability to show what he can do on the ground, not just going down and immediately submitting guys, although it has been pretty much that. My apologies. But we have seen a little bit more from Rug. Does that give him an advantage there? I'm not sure. No, I won't be giving my pick or anything here. I'll maybe give that when we're doing the preview for this next week. But I'm just I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's a fight that's been talked about for a long time. I think it's a fight that if you're not a fan that watches all the different promotions, that it might entice you to actually go over and watch it, and I would always encourage that. Whether it's a great fight in Bellator or PFL or One or Cage Warriors or Brave or wherever it might be, there's a very good fight that someone in the know tells you that's intriguing, go and watch it. And I think that's one. If you want to call me someone in the know, I don't know, maybe a few people will argue with that, but that's one I would tell you to go over and watch, because I think it's going to be a fascinating one. Right, the next fight I'm going to go to. So I'm usually going order here, right? But I'm not going in order this time. That one's from the start of the month. I'm going to pop to the end of the month for the next one, and it's from PFL 9. So I'm going to keep the 3 UFC ones together. But the last one from 1. On August 4th. This one is August 23rd, PFL 9, and it's Magomedkerimov versus Magomed Umaltov. Now, easy for me to say it there, but this is a real meeting of absolute beasts in PFL. First of all, let's quickly look at Magomed Umaltov, 14-0, fighting out of Eagles MMA, 31 years of age, 12 of those, 14 wins, are inside the distance. Only one submission, 11 KOs, which is, you know, we need to keep in mind as well. But I was looking through a couple of his old fights and looking through my notes as well for a couple of his old fights. It's not always a straight punch and a KO. You know, he can wrestle. He has the ability to TKO guys as well, but he can kick, he can hit. He's very good standing up as well as on the ground. And you know what? The same could be said for Magomedkerimov. 33 now, 38 fights into his career. He's won 32 of them. 22 inside the distance, 13 KOs, 9 submissions. And that kind of tells you everything you need to know. Like, he's won all but one of his fights in the last 8 years, you know, since 2015. And that's a run of a lot. You know, what has he won, like 16 of his last 17 fights or something like that? An unbelievable run. And he's beaten the likes of, you know, David Zavada this year, but beat Gleison Thibault last year, beat Sadabusi, who has done nothing but getting better and better since that, beat Curtis Melinder, beat Chris Curtis twice, who we see in the UFC now, beat Ray Cooper. He lost to Ray Cooper, so that's his only loss. It was you know, he was winning that fight and he got hit with a big shot in that and deserved to lose, but he did lose that fight. But, you know, just unflappable really for years and years and years. And even back in 2011, he beat Anatoly Tokov, who fought for the Bellator title there last year. So he's not only beating good fellas recently, he's been beating good fellas for a long time. And again, fighting out of American Top Team, but he has the wrestling as well as the striking. And this is one of those fights that I like, who, if you're to ask me who I think will win, I'll probably go with Magomedkerimov, right? But it's I said it with the last fight, right? And what intrigues you most about great fights is that you don't know what's going to happen. I feel like, we talk an awful lot about a lot of fights, and we kind of we understand what's going to happen if a certain thing happens. And let's give a famous example, right? Let's say, okay, the fight was 5 years ago this week, McGregor versus Mendez, right? What's going to happen in that fight, right? Either Conor's going to be able to keep it standing and beat him on the feet and maybe knock him out, or Mendez might be able to get it down and wrestle him and do that, right? Or let's say it's it's Wonderboy versus Woodley. Similar sort of thing. You know, Woodley can get him on the ground. Maybe he can land a big shot on the way down, but if he can get him on the ground, he can beat him. If Wonderboy can keep him at range, he's going to beat him. You know, one of those two things will probably happen. With fights like this, it's very difficult to know what's going to happen. You might think one guy has an advantage in one area, but does he? Like, I was looking as well at one of the old fights of Umaltov and looking at my notes as well. It's like, his opponents make his striking easier for him because he has the threat of the takedown at all times. And even though, like, let me look at his record again. 11 knockouts, 1 submission, like, and as I said, a lot of them TKs, but a lot of wins on the feet as well. People are still wary of the takedown and get caught on the feet because of it. That is a very good thing to have, but will he have that against someone like Magomedkerimov? You know, that's the big thing here. Like, will Magomedkerimov be afraid of getting taken down? And the other side, will Umaltov be afraid of getting taken down? Will Magomedkerimov have like the edge he has on a lot of people who are afraid of getting taken down? I know, I think it's a little bit different for both of them in a lot of fights, because like they are happy to stand up and fight in a lot of fights. But as I said, there is that threat. Now there's either no threat or maybe more of a threat because they switch up their game plan. Is it going to be a threat from Umaltov or a threat from Magomedkerimov? Who knows? Like, who knows in this one? I'm sure we can go on. And when I'm breaking down the fight itself, I will do that. And I'll tell you who I think has the advantage and all of that. But if we look at it in the broad term, and why I'm really looking forward to it is, it could go either way. Like, I could go in and call it and go, oh, look, I think Magomedkerimov's, his jab is going to be too much. He's going to be a little bit, he's going to be a little bit too long, even though they're the same height, you know, and they're only a year apart in age, 2 years apart in age. Yeah. But like, let's say I make that call and then the opposite happens. It could very well happen. Umaltov has never been defeated. We've never seen it. So that's the sort of fight I love. Like the one I always go back to back in the day, and it's, with hindsight, maybe we look at it differently, but TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. I was like, I had no idea what was going to happen in that fight. And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved that fight. So that's why this fight is special for me, and I can't wait to see it. Right. Let's move on. Let's talk about the next fight. The next fight I'm massively looking forward to. It happens August 5th, and it's on a UFC fight night, and it's Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez. It's so interesting. Like, okay, you look at Andrade. She's coming off of 2 losses in a row, knocked out by Yan, choked out by Erin Blanchfield, but still, she's still one of the top fighters in the world. Make no mistake about that. And then you've Tatiana Suarez, 9-0. She beat Montana De La Rosa in her last fight after 4 years out of the cage. Now, she did well there and she looked good. And as I said, we can break that down when we need to break it down. But what I think is so huge here is for the first, and you might say, okay, she beat Carla Esparza and Carla was a champion and all, but it's a rise in quality massively from Montana De La Rosa to Jessica Andrade for someone who has been out for that long. But someone with that much talent that you're thinking she wins this and it has to be a title shot. Or, or if it's not a title shot, it's like she is the boogeyman on the way up and everyone is going to be afraid. Like it was back in whenever 2020 or 2018 or whenever it was when she was fit and ready and going, everyone knew. She's a win over Alexa Grasso as well, which is funny. I'm just looking at it here on Sherdog. Yeah, maybe it isn't a step up, but it is a step up from the last fight, but again, the magic part of that is it's a 2023 step up. Is she ready for it? Is she back? Is she fit enough? And this is an unbelievable fight because I talked earlier about watching fighters kind of coming up through the ranks and seeing them. We all heard about Jessica Andrade coming up through the ranks, because she 4 fights into her career when she came off of The Ultimate Fighter and was fighting in the UFC. Everyone was saying, oh, look, this is the female Habib and all. She's absolutely destroying everyone. And that was what? God almighty, that's 7 years ago. So long ago. And the point here is like, you see people, you hear people making that rise. You think they're going to be the next level people, and to actually see them reaching that goal is magnificent. Like I love to say that I interviewed Garry before his professional debut when he was still an amateur, and now he's a ranked UFC fighter. Like, isn't that amazing to follow someone's journey that whole way through? Like, look at Sean O'Bannon debuting in the UFC. I was watching her amateur fights 18 months ago or whatever, absolutely mad to see that. Someone like James Gallagher, I was at one of his amateur fights a few years ago, and now, he was a ranked Bellator fighter there for a while and all of that. It's absolutely crazy, and it's great to be able to see all of that and to see people go to the very top and to see someone like Tatiana Suarez reach her goals. I think after all she's been through in her life as well, it would be massive. But at the other side of it, Jessica Andrade, who, if she loses 3 in a row, it's a very, very tough time in her career, because she was coming off of 3 wins in a row there in January, and she, there was all the talk of, right, couldn't she get back into the title mix there? And she wasn't too far away from it. She was probably the next person, but then you run into 2 people on bad nights or good nights for them. I don't think it was necessarily a bad night for her on either night, to be honest. I just think Yan Xiaonan fought brilliantly, as did Erin Blanchfield. And that's a huge fight for both people, a huge fight for the division, and another massive fight for women's MMA. You love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. Right, let's move on to the next fight. And the last 2 fights are both from UFC 292. And the first one I want to talk about is the headliner between Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley. And do you know why I love this, right? It's the new breed. And I love to see the new breed, because for a long time, in certain divisions, you just kind of, you get sick of the old breed all the time, and that's I'm speaking here purely as a fan and purely as someone who enjoys things like, you know, and this is a different division, but the featherweight division that time when it was just like you had Mendez, Aldo, Edgar, Mendez, Aldo, Edgar, Mendez. Just it felt like that was all we had, and we'd, you know, Ricardo Lamas just run in there the odd time, and then we'd Max, and then we'd Max, Edgar, Aldo, you know, and it kept going and going and going. And it felt like there was people's careers came and went and they never got a shot, right? And it's great to see that. And I know Aljamain is what, 33 years of age now, and John O'Malley's 28 as well, so I'm not necessarily new, but you know what I mean? Like Sterling is a guy who was the new breed and came to his prime, and there he is. And now Sean O'Malley is the one who is the new breed. He's won a few fights and now here he is. And it's like two lads in their absolute prime fighting each other. Two lads who we talked about, like, could they get there? Now they are there, and let's see who's going to win. Love that. That's exactly what you want. Like, you want exactly that. And it's not, no belt being held up, no wait for a year, you know, no 4 or 5 matches behind the thinking, oh, one of them will get it. Let's just do it. Let's go in and have the fight, and that's that. And I love that. Like, and the thing about O'Malley as well, I think O'Malley is an interesting one, right? And I've a lot of things to say when we're breaking down this fight, but now's not the time for that, obviously. But he has showed such good things and such like issues as well. Like, his body is kind of broken down in him a couple of times in a couple of different fights. He hasn't fought a massive level apart from Yan, and obviously the Yan fight was very, very close, and it feels like, even though I said it's great to see someone new coming, it does feel like it's a slight tad bit quick, you know, but at the same time, I'm glad it's coming quickly. I'm glad people are getting their opportunity, and you know what, I'm glad that Aljamain Sterling stood up and took the fight as well. Now there's other talks about that, was he kind of forced into it and stuff? That's another argument for another day, but he, on the other hand, then has showed everything that O'Malley hasn't had the chance to do yet. Now, I'm not saying that O'Malley can't do it, but he just hasn't had Cejudo, Dillashaw, Yan twice. He's had Yan once, obviously, but Sandhagen, Munoz. He had Munoz, and then it didn't happen for him. You know, Jimmy Rivera, Hidden Brow, even back in the day, and we go on and on. And that, as I said, that's not to say that O'Malley couldn't do that, and not to say he won't beat Aljamain Sterling, but you are taking that little bit of a leap, right? And you kind of look, all of this is the same sort of thing, and why I enjoy these fights. It's a little bit of not knowing. Like, is O'Malley good enough to beat Sterling? Is he good enough? We know how good Sterling is. Like, there's no doubt in that. Sterling has beat some of the best fighters in the world. Okay, you can say, oh, I thought Yan won, or I thought whoever won. They were close fights, grand. But if you're close enough to get that good if you're good enough to get that close to those good fighters, you're good, right? Make no mistake about that. Can O'Malley do that? Can O'Malley get as close to him as the other lads did? You know, can O'Malley get over the hump and beat Aljamain Sterling? Can he do it? I'm so intrigued. Do you know what? I'm very intrigued as well. And one part of like the actual build up, maybe the analysis of the fight, is like, I really wonder, can O'Malley's physique hold up in a 5-round world title fight? I really wonder, can it? Because you look at his record, he's never been near 5 rounds. You know, he would win 3 rounds with Yan. He went into the 3rd round twice in fights before that in the UFC. And other than that, he went to the decision back in 2017 as well against Tyrion Ware. But that's it in the UFC. You know, it was one fight outside of the UFC, and that's that really. That's not like you've no experience in the championship rounds, 4th round, 5th round, or anything like that. No, Sterling has it against Cejudo. Sterling has it against Yan the first time. The second time. The first time, obviously, into the 4th round against Yan as well, and a litany of 3-round fights as well to kind of back that up. And even as a 5-round fight from back in 2011 outside of the UFC. So I don't think people talk about that enough, but I think in general, but I think with O'Malley, you need to talk about it a little bit extra, because like, look what happened to him in the first Cheeto Vera fight and other fights as well. I just still think there's that question. Like, you always look at there's certain guys you just look at like that, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he'll prove that wrong down through the years, but like, and like, it has been proven. And like, look at, say, a guy like Dustin Poirier. You know, when McGregor was talking to him, like, Akira Kurosani hit you and he put you down and you did the stanky leg and a gust of wind and knock you over. I think that was true for a while, and it took him going up a weight class and his fight, his fight with Justin Gaethje and a few more fights actually proved that wasn't no longer the case, right? I think, look at Amir Khan. I think he would have had a way better career, but he's like, his chin was just glass. Like, I feel like O'Malley might be in that class, and he'll have to prove he's not, I think, to get over that hump. Now, does he believe that? Does many other, maybe it's just me, right? But we'll see against Sterling, and that's an intriguing part for me as well. The last fight I'm going for is one, do you know what? It's a first fight I've seen in a while. There's a bit of niggle. There's a bit of back and forth. There's a bit of talk online. There's a bit of shit talk, and it's my guy, Ireland's own Ian Garry against Geoff Neal. And this fight was announced, and it probably would have been on my list anyway, because this fight was announced. I was like, that's a great fight. What a fight. Great opportunity for Ian Garry. He's fighting a guy who's ranked, number top 10 anyway, in the UFC's rankings. He's in, I think, at 13 is Ian Garry at the moment. If he beats him, he's into the top 10 and all that. But also, Geoff Neal, a very good striker, will give Ian a little bit of a different test. But also, Ian is a striker. He loves to strike. He will strike with Geoff Neal, I think. But also, Ian can wrestle, and we've seen it. He's gone in there and gone to the ground with BJJ black belts before outside of the UFC and done fairly well. So there's a chance for all this to happen. Very intriguing matchup. But then they started going at it online, and Ian Garry got a picture of Geoff Neal's mugshot and put it on a t-shirt, and he called it The Future. And then there was, Geoff put out this thing, saying, I'm going to kill this man, or whatever it might be. And there was a bit of back and forth, and then Sean Strickland kind of came in, and, he was talking smack as well. And Ian Garry was like, well, you didn't know this fight was happening before, and now you do, job done kind of thing here. So like, there's a bit of back and forth, there's a bit of shit talk here, as well as the very, very good fight. And I think it's massive because, as well, and maybe this is the theme of today's episode, but talking about that rise through, and I've already talked about Ian Garry's rise through, but you want to watch fighters make moves technically throughout their fights, right? And what I mean by that, let me give you an example. Let's say like a Max Holloway. I love doing things, and Poirier is a good example as well, but you go back and you watch one of their old fights, and you see the magnificent difference they have between an old fight and a new fight, and just how different of a fighter they actually were then compared to what they are now. And I think a great way to do that sometimes is to like look at old fights where they fought the same person as they're about to fight, or that they just fought, and to see the difference in level. And I was trying to just pull up a Poirier fight there, and it's like my internet's gone down here or something, but it's not working. But anyway, I remember watching an old fight of his and then a newer fight of his against the same person, whoever that might have been, and he just looks so different, right? And the point of this is, you look at Ian Garry, and do you know what? It's not as noticeable with Ian Garry, because I think Ian started at a very good level even when he made his pro debut. But you can see little bits. I think that the Song Kenan fight was a great example of how, look at the first 2 minutes of that fight and look at the last 2 minutes of that fight, how different he looked, how much better he looked, because he learned on the job. And I think that is huge. He's out in Brazil at the moment. He's doing a bit of training out there. He said he's gone out, he's working with Charles Oliveira. He said he's gone out to learn extra bits of jiu-jitsu and all that. Is he going to add that in here? Is that going to be a different look? All of that. But then from Geoff Neal, like, you're thinking, well, I have my spot here. I've beaten Luque, I've beaten Ponzinibbio, two guys who are right up there. You know, okay, went in there against Shavkat and lost out there. If I lose out to another up-and-coming guy, well, I have problems here. And he has to win this fight. Like, this is not Ian Garry taking on the next guy and, you know, that next guy's fight. Geoff Neal has to win this fight. He has to win it. Or else his ranking will probably be gone. Or he'll be on the verge of it. Like, the next time Michael Morales wins a fight, Geoff Neal will be gonzo out of the rankings, you know. And where are you then? Like, it's hard to get back in there once you get out of it. You know, ask Daniel Rodriguez how hard it'll be to get back in, you know. So I think it's a massive fight for both guys. And like with Ian Garry, and you know, I'm into Rakhmonov. Like, you watch a Rakhmonov fight, you watch a Garry fight, you watch a Chimaev fight, you watch an O'Malley fight, and you're seeing a step in the, you know, on the ladder of a possible great here. A real possible great. And will they all be? No, they won't all be it. No, but will one or two of them be it? Yes. And that's exactly what we could be looking at UFC 292. So cannot wait for that fight. All 5 fights this month are absolutely fantastic, and there's plenty more to come aside from that. Check out Sherdog.com. Go up to the fight finder on the top, and there's UFC events, Bellator events, PFL events, One Championship events. There's a full calendar there. You can see every single event going on worldwide. Let me know your fight for August. Comment section below. Let me know the fight you're looking forward to the most in August. And you know what? We'll all go down, we'll have a look, and we'll watch all of those fights, and we'll enjoy them a lot. I will leave it there. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.